Well, hello everyone. So, I'd like to introduce you to our little hummingbird friend. This is Gumdrop, and she has been at our house pretty much all summer. She's an extremely territorial hummingbird, and she's very vocal and chases other hummingbirds away, but she also likes to feed from our hands, and she is extremely companionable. So we've been spending a lot of time with her, and because summer is coming to an end and the hummingbirds are going to be flying south soon, I decided that I wanted to paint our little Gumdrop. Ron had taken a bunch of really great photos of Gumdrop, but the one that I liked the best was the sunset photo with her perched on the Rose of Sharon bud. And mainly because you see a lot of paintings of hummingbirds in flight, but I really just liked kind of the feeling of the lighting and the ambiance of the photo, and it really kind of drove it home that it is the end of summer and we're getting to the end of hummingbird season. So I decided that that is the photo that I wanted to use as my reference. Now, if you do want to recreate this painting, if you head over to my Patreon, I do provide you with the original reference photo as well as a line drawing that you can transfer directly onto your canvas. And I do a full-length tutorial on creating the bokeh background as well as the full-length hummingbird tutorial. And it goes through step by step every single thing that I do in order to create this painting. So if that's something that you're interested in, head over to my Patreon and you can follow along with the full-length tutorial. So this is definitely a layered painting, and what I mean by that is that I did put a first layer of darks onto the canvas, but I did want to have these little points of light. So I didn't want to put dark over the whole entire canvas because it's very difficult to get yellow back on a dark background. You have to put white underneath it. So I just created more of that sunset glow on the canvas first before moving on to painting another dark color onto the canvas and just kind of layering more color on it. In order to create the bokeh background, I used a circle template and a dry brushing technique, which had a pretty good effect, I think. I mean, I did have to do some touch-ups later in order to make them show up because acrylics, of course, always dry like a value darker than how you put them on the canvas. So as they dried, some of them dried a little bit too dark, but it did work really well to get this effect. And the dry brushing, you can still see the color that is underneath, so it almost looks more transparent even though I'm using some opaques, and that's where the dry brushing really comes in handy. But I wanted to create kind of that lens flare, and I also was exaggerating it a little bit because the photo is extremely soft, and I wanted it to be a little bit more abstract and a little bit more bubbly and circular and really kind of emphasize that effect. So moving on to painting Gumdrop herself, I actually switched over to golden open acrylics because I get a longer working time, but they still dry quicker than oils, and it's way easier to mix colors with golden open acrylics than it is with regular acrylics. So I was able to get the right colors that I wanted to use, but of course, you know, when you're working with acrylics, like I said before, they always dry a little bit darker. So once I had done the hummingbird once, I did have to go over it and just create a few more brighter highlights in order for some of the paint to show up. But putting the base colors down was really important because when you look at the reference photo, you see a lot of the under feathers, because of the lighting and everything, is that there were like a lot of purples and greens that were in kind of the under feathers. And so putting the I say under feathers, it's like underwear, but putting those colors down first so that I could then put the highlights on top of them was actually a really important part of this whole process. Like I said, it's you're just layering and continuing to layer so that you get more photorealism. And this is a photorealistic hummingbird. The background isn't necessarily photorealistic, but I like kind of the abstract effect of the background against the realism of the hummingbird. I think it just kind of looks really cool. It has a neat effect. If I were to do it again, I would probably finish the background in oils as well as the bird in oils, just because I prefer oils. But I think that it would give it a softer effect. Maybe it wouldn't be quite as harsh, but I did like the outcome in general, and it was a pretty quick painting because the whole thing was done in acrylics. So just getting all of those little tiny brush strokes, which in order to create the photorealistic kind of hummingbird effect, it's just a bunch of little tiny brush strokes, and it didn't take very long. The actual hummingbird tutorial, I think, is only about an hour and 20 minutes long, so the whole entire hummingbird and the flower were painted in less than an hour and a half. So it wasn't a super long process. It would have been longer if I were using oil paints from the get-go, but I think that the choice of using acrylics, even if you're going to do an underpainting in acrylic, it just will take you less time to complete a painting. And using the just brush strokes as your kind of photorealism guide in a way is very helpful, because you don't have to concentrate so much on painting detail, just using some color in order to create the effect of there being this feathery look and fluffiness and everything. And I'm using some pretty small detail brushes as well, because we are talking about a very small bird. The nickname for our bird being Gumdrop, it was either going to be Gumdrop or Thimble, because she's so small but so adorable. So the cool thing about the reference photo was just the way that the iridescent feathers caught all of that light, and they glowed in this warm glow. Even though she's got the iridescent green feathers, just in that lighting they reflected all of this beautiful sunset light, and it was absolutely gorgeous. And I think that was one of the things about it that really kind of took me artistically. I was like, well, that's not a very common thing that you see with hummingbirds, especially ruby-throated hummingbirds. You don't see them glowing red, because they usually only have the red on their neck, and that's only the males. The females don't have the red on their neck. So what we have is a little female hummingbird, and she's got a lot of personality. Man, is she feisty. She will chase other birds. She will chase bees. She is just, don't touch my food. Kind of like me, actually. I don't want anyone to touch my food either. I'm not into sharing my meals with other people. So you take a french fry off my plate, you're gonna owe me one. But not that I eat french fries. I gave those up. It's really not good for you, fried food. So I kind of limit that. But yeah, just getting some of these really bright colors. One of the things that I did mix into the golden open acrylics, though, is I did use a neon red to get some of those really, really bright colors, those really bright reflective colors off the back. And that works really well. That's one of the things that I think neon paint or fluorescent paints are kind of underrated, because people are like, well, I don't want to have a fluorescent painting. But if you mix them with other colors, they will definitely brighten up your yellows, and they'll make these really, really nice melon oranges and stuff, so you can really capture light with them, which I like. I think it's a great effect that they have. So still going into all of these underpainting and kind of working in sections, because even though the golden open acrylics give you a longer working time, you still do have to work a little bit quickly, way more quickly than you would with oils, because they will start to dry. And so I work in little sections and then finish a section and move on to another section, because some of the parts I do want to have dry. So I'll do a little bit of the underpainting and have that dry so it doesn't mix with the brighter paint that I'm going to put on top of it. But yeah, I do recommend trying out the golden open acrylics if you're not into using oil paint, but you want something that behaves a little bit more like oil paint. The open acrylics are definitely a good compromise between the two. So getting a lot of those reds into the back, you can already see how the light almost gives the impression that it's reflecting off of her. And it started to look so like, oh my god, I've captured light. That is so neat. I absolutely love it. And she is such a beautiful little bird, and I'm really going to miss her. I'm going to miss seeing her every day, because she does come by every single day, and it's super cool. So many of you probably know that, you know, florals and flowers have never really been my thing, but I've been practicing. I have been practicing painting flowers quite a bit lately, and I think that I have gotten it down. It does take a little bit of practice, especially when it's something that you're not used to, but painting this Rose of Sharon bud, it definitely tested me. It tested me quite a bit because there are just so many veins, and because the hummingbird is photorealistic, I wanted the flower to also be photorealistic. So there was I wasn't sure that I would be able to pull it off because, like I said before, flowers not my thing, but I definitely I think that I did a pretty good job with it, if I may say so myself. I mean, not to say that I'm the best flower painter in the world. I certainly am not. I have a long way to go, but I think I did a pretty good job for a flower bud and just making it look somewhat realistic. It's not always an easy thing when it's not something that you're used to doing, and I, like anybody in their craft, I learn more all of the time, and I'm constantly trying to better my painting skills, especially when it comes to things that I don't necessarily choose on a regular basis. But you know what? You have to climb out of your comfort zone every once in a while and do things that make you slightly uncomfortable and challenge you, because how do you get better at anything if you never challenge yourself? The challenge for me lately has definitely been in the floral department, and I feel a lot more confident than I did even a month ago, since I've been really practicing flowers and wanting to incorporate them into some of my other artwork. But hey, let me know what you think of this painting, and yeah, if you want to follow along to the full length tutorial, head over to my Patreon. And yeah, I love you guys, and I will see you next time. Bye!